Most people are annoyed by what is missing. They are bothered by the delay, disturbed by the silence, and angered by what the senses keep showing them. They look at the unfinished thing, and then they react to someone still waiting for life to move. But I tell you, there is another use of mood. You may be annoyed, not because the desire is absent, but because in imagination it has already happened. Tonight, I want to show you how one simple mood can help you enter the wish fulfilled. A mood is not just a passing emotion. It is the atmosphere of the state you are occupying. And the world has a strange way of answering the state you accept as true. So be very clear. Irritation is not the power. Anger is not the method. The accepted state is the cause. But if a small irritation naturally belongs to the end, then that irritation can help make the end feel real. The question is not, am I feeling positive enough? The question is, where is this reaction coming from? Is it coming from lack, or is it coming from possession? That difference will show you the state you are actually living in. Now, let me show you what I mean. A gentleman once wrote to me. He was an artist, and perhaps because of that, he needed something vivid enough to stir his imagination. His house needed painting. The condition was obvious. The walls were worn, the color had faded, and anyone could see the house needed attention. But at that time, he did not have the money to have it done. He did not sit in despair and repeat, I wish my house were painted. He did not argue with the facts. He did not wait until the money appeared before allowing himself to enter the end. Instead, he turned inward and began to experience the house as already being painted. He saw the painters outside the window. He smelled the fresh paint. He placed his hand upon the wall, and in imagination the paint was still wet. This was not a flat affirmation. It was not a lifeless picture. It had detail. It had sense. It had the feeling of something actually taking place. Then something unusual happened. He became annoyed. Not annoyed because he could not afford to paint the house. Annoyed because the painters were outside his window and might see him while he was taking a shower. Annoyed because the paint was wet and had gotten on his hands. Outwardly, nothing had changed, but inwardly he was no longer waiting for painters. He was dealing with the inconvenience of having them there. That is the point of the story. His annoyance did not belong to lack. It belonged to fulfillment. He was not irritated by an unpainted house. He was irritated by the ordinary trouble that would exist if the house were already being painted. That made the scene real to him. The next morning, his agent called. A producer had offered him $21,000 in cash for television residuals he did not even know he had. He accepted it, and with that money, the house was painted. Now, if you hear this carelessly, you may think annoyance itself is the secret. It is not. Do not mistake the irritation for the cause. The cause was the state he accepted within himself. The irritation simply gave that state weight. It made the imaginal act feel lived, ordinary, and believable. He did not merely imagine the result. He reacted from the result. Now take another simple example. A man imagined himself standing in a long line at the bank, not because he was poor, not because he was begging for money. He was standing there because he had a large check to deposit. In imagination, the money was already his. The only trouble was that the line was moving too slowly. And there he became annoyed. But notice the source of that annoyance. It was not the annoyance of wanting money. It was the annoyance of already having it and now needing to deposit it. He had moved from the problem into the consequence of the solution. This is where the distinction matters. Many people are irritated by the absence of their desire. They are irritated because the message has not come, the money has not arrived, the door has not opened, the body has not changed, or the outer world still looks the same. That kind of irritation only keeps them standing outside the fulfilled state. But there is another kind of irritation, the irritation that would only exist after the desire is fulfilled. The phone keeps ringing because business is moving. Papers must be signed because the agreement is complete. The room smells of paint because the house is being renewed. The line at the bank is slow because the check is already in your hand. Do you see it? One reaction says, where is it? Why has it not come? The other says, it is done. And now this is what naturally follows. One keeps you in absence. The other places you inside possession. Imagination does not require every feeling to be pleasant. It requires the feeling to imply the end. This is where many people make the wrong effort. They try to force a grand emotion. They think they must feel joyful, excited, spiritual, or perfectly certain. And when they cannot produce that emotion, they assume they have failed. But the feeling of the wish fulfilled is not always excitement. It is the quiet acceptance that the thing is already so. Ask yourself plainly, if this were already a fact, what ordinary inconvenience would come with it? If the house were already repaired, what would you notice? If the money were already received, what would you now have to handle? If the position were already yours, what responsibility would follow? If the relationship were already restored, what simple arrangement would now need to be made? Do not search for drama. Search for naturalness. The end is often not some great emotional explosion. It may be a smell in the room, a sound outside the window, a paper on the desk, a call you must return, an appointment you must keep, a task you must complete because the thing is no longer coming. It is here. That is why this strange use of annoyance can be helpful. It gives the fulfilled state a body. It makes the wish feel ordinary enough to believe. You are no longer floating in a vague hope. You are standing inside a scene where the desire has consequences. So observe your mood. Do not merely ask, what do I want? Ask, where am I reacting from? If the reaction belongs to delay, you are still wearing delay. If the reaction belongs to fulfillment, remain with it. Wear it until it stops feeling unusual. Wear it until it feels natural. And when it feels natural, the state has begun to possess you. So I leave you with this. Do not try tonight to feel magnificent. Do not try to feel holy. Do not try to force some great emotion that does not come naturally. Take one desire only and ask one strange question. What would annoy me if this were already done? Stay with that question. If the money were already yours, perhaps you would not be shouting with joy. Perhaps you would be signing papers, waiting in line, answering calls, or wondering where to put it. If the house were already repaired, perhaps you would be tired of the smell of paint. If the work were already successful, perhaps you would be annoyed that people now need more from you. Find the little trouble that belongs only to fulfillment. This is important. Do not choose an annoyance that proves delay. Choose one that proves possession. Not, why has it not come? But, now that it is here, what must I handle? That question moves you from wanting into having. It takes the desire out of the distance and places it in your hands. Then enter one small scene, not a grand scene, not a long performance, one little moment. Hear the phone ringing too often. Smell the fresh paint. Feel the weight of the check. See the papers waiting for your signature. Let the fulfilled state become ordinary enough to trouble you. And when it feels ordinary, you have touched the secret. For the wish fulfilled is not always ecstasy. Sometimes it is a wet wall, a slow line, a full desk, a crowded day, a duty that appears because the thing is already yours. Learn to react from there. So tonight, do not ask, can I believe this? Ask yourself, what would naturally bother me if it were already true? Find that answer. Enter it. Feel it real. And let that mood teach you that the end is not far away. The end is a state you may occupy now. Now, let us go into the silence.